Thursday morning.
Yeah, and now we actually are live, by the way.
I'm
Oh,
I'm still refreshing and not seeing it, so
No, it's going. It should be going.
I'm
Folks, you can
gonna
hear me in
take
the
your word
chat,
for it.
right? Folks can hear me in the chat. We're being very sloppy here. We were just talking for like, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and
Not that long.
hello.
no,
Hello, hello, hello.
no.
Chat.
Someone in the chat say hello. So let me know if you can hear us. Anybody? Bueller? Maybe not.
You're showing the picture of Bamboo's face whenever you start up the stream without actually starting up the stream.
Uh huh. Is it not starting up? Yo, you
I
can
see
hear us,
that.
right? Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
I think
I'm
we're in here
seeing
finally.
nothing. I'm
Okay.
seeing
Um,
nothing.
They
yeah,
were.
so people just joined. If you are just joining, JT thought we were live for about 2 minutes, and he's refusing to redo the introductions. It's just
Mhm.
typical podcaster strategy of getting more downloads on the podcast itself. So
Yep.
um, check out the podcast tomorrow morning for the intros, the brilliant and witty intros of JT Russell as always.
Yeah, maybe I'll upload the full. No, I don't even have a video recording because I wasn't recording the video. I was like, I'll just record directly in the video for to YouTube. Uh, but
What is
no,
happening?
no.
Are we
Uh-oh.
streaming?
I'm
We're streaming now,
pretty sure we
finally.
are.
I see nothing. It's awful.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. We're kind of high on Keyforge right now, which is great. Like we were all three at KFC last weekend. JDG not tonight, also there. And Miggy was there as well. They couldn't all join us tonight. It's middle of the night for not tonight. She said we asked her if she could join. She said not tonight. Sorry.
Yes.
And yeah, but we had an amazing time. I think everyone at KFC had an amazing time, and we just kind of want to talk about that here tonight. This is one of the rare bottom of the beaker episodes I think that are not going to be more of the evergreen style. But I think people coming back and revisiting this one in 2025, they're going to want to hear about the best KFC ever, and I think they're going to want to listen to this one.
It
Yeah.
really was up there as one of the best.
So
Was this your second Behawk or your third? Did you
I've
go to
been
the first
every
one?
time for
Okay,
KFC. Yeah.
all right. I missed the first one.
So,
You've been to all three, and you're still agreeing that this is the best one.
yes, I agree. This is the best one.
mhm. Of the two I've been to, this is the top so far, and there were no broken bones to kick it off for me. So like that's a plus. But you know what I'll say too, and maybe it's because I missed the LCQ last time and like came right into like playing the main event. But even compared to other Vault tours from this past season, like those felt like tournaments. This like felt like a celebration. You know what I mean? Like it felt like you were at Camp Keyforge. You were playing some games. There was like stuff going on all the time. It was an absolute blast. So this one
Yeah,
like it really hit the rung the bell on celebration in KFC for sure. Yeah.
I totally agree. And I think, first and foremost, I think that was in large part due to the community events and the community driven activities happening this time around. I loved that Ghost Galaxy opened it up to players to just kind of like organize other things to happen during the week. There was tons of Keymander. There was the Scrubs Revenge Party. There was, of course, Kagi Live. There was the Keyforge Adventures happening. Like, it just really felt like the players were there to have a good time. And like you said, JT, it's like the Vault Tours felt like tournaments. This felt like a party. This felt like getting together with your friends that you hadn't seen in a while and just enjoying each other's company and the game itself. It was just wonderful, start to finish. Had a great time.
And if you're not paying attention, if you're not following along at home, that's what you say when you didn't win the whole thing.
No, I feel like, hey, like we had a pretty, I would say I would describe the sloppy weekend as a moderately successful weekend, right?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I'm proud of the way that our team performed. We didn't come home with a trophy, but like I'm pretty happy with what we did. Like JT, you qualified for World Championship in Alliance.
Hmm.
Behawk, you got top four in Kagi.
I did.
Uh, I got top eight in the Open Sealed. JDG also played in the Alliance World Championship. Like nothing to sneeze at from the sloppy
Right.
side, I think.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that. Should we run down how our weekends went? Is that a good? Is a good place to start? That's the high level. Yeah, I had an absolute great what, Friday? What was the last Thursday and Friday? Thursday and Friday. I think I lost one game both days. And
Wow.
yeah, that and these were long days too. I mean, I was on the I was on the rough end of how 2LO breaks for some of these events, right? Like I made top 9 at the in the sealed main event, and that was good for an extra play-in round on top of the like 2 additional rounds that I had to play after the folks who went X and O got to like hang up their cleats. So it was like already I'd played 3 rounds before the top 8 started. After I had finished after they had finished their X and O bracket. I can't remember how many rounds that was. It was so many. It was just like what's your record? Like, oh, it's been like a long day. However many -1 is the record because I'm still
Hmm.
alive, I think. But yeah, that was great. The GR specifically, I was happy with. I know in my Amber Skies pool, I opened the pods up or the decks up, and I was like, yeah, there's some heat in here. We're gonna do pretty well. But I think we all I don't know if I said this out loud at the time, but I looked at my Grim Reminders pool and kind of said, yeah, this is not gonna do things. I'm gonna be lucky to like.
I was just gonna say that. Like, Not Tonight said to me, she's like, "Yeah, JT said his Grim Reminders pool was terrible, and then you ended up qualifying with
Mm-hmm.
that terrible pod or pool of Grim Reminders decks." And then the next day, you were like, "Oh, these Ember Skies decks are actually pretty spicy," and we were just like, "Come on!" Like yesterday, he said they were garbage, and he made top 10 or something like that. Today, he thinks they're good. So we were feeling the pressure from you for sure because your
Mm-hmm.
standards are very high for sealed pools.
They are. Well, especially in Grim Reminders. For Grim Reminders, I'm like, if I'm not doing something unfair, I'm feeling behind already. And my Grim Reminders pool, there were no board wipes, there were no key cheats. There was the deck that I ended up playing had almost no amber control and almost no board control. And this was scrounging together the best that they had to offer. And I don't know, it
Mm.
had one like pretty unfair Mars line that I just leaned into all weekend, and it was all day, and it was good enough. So that was cool. But some cool fun stories from those games. But I want to hear from you guys too how those kind of days went out.
I'm not gonna lie, I barely remember my Grim Reminder pool. I think
Yeah.
I won a game and then O2 scrubbed out. I did not do well in the LCQ. But that's okay. I went straight to yeah, no, I went O2 because I went straight to the second Yammer and I was undefeated in second Yammer. So that
Mm-hmm.
felt nice.
Yeah.
But I wasn't gonna get a shot at participating in the Worlds at that point.
Yeah. I barely
Lots.
remember my Grim pools. Like they were also similarly unremarkable. Um, I take notes in a notebook when I go to these tournaments now because I can't remember half the stuff that happens, but especially when I opened very forgettable pods in Grim Reminders. I did have a good Mars pod, like 2 Doctors and a Rebel, which is enough to win some games already. I think I was 3-2 in the LCQ. I don't remember. Might have been 2-2. Um, Not good enough is all I remember about it.
Mm.
Yeah. No, I had Brawling Grounds with Final Refrain, and I kept trying to lean into that. Um, and it was to my detriment, I think, because it made me swap in other houses that just didn't sync well together. Because I had Veil with some with a bunch of capture pips, and then the Soul Tender to like ward them all.
Mm,
But Final Refrain doesn't have any play effects, so it doesn't have any bonus pips, so it doesn't. I'm literally like doing the game plan of putting creatures in my yard for the Final Refrain Brawling Grounds turn, but then all of my capture pips are just in my discard pile, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really have any Winds of Death or anything to get them back. So
yeah.
it really fought itself. I really feel like and I should have just like either gone with different pods for the Brobnar to support that, or just like go with uh, that one deck with the Soul Tender and all the capture pips because it was pretty cool. And I just didn't do that.
Mm.
Yeah.
But for the sealed open, I had a lot better pool. I felt like I actually won my first 2 games, and that felt really nice. Uh, Pretty much played a Amber Skies Archon deck but then I swapped in the Skyborn, which has double against all flags, for Logos, which had double concussive transfer, the Z art of a card, and then it had double Harlan Mindlock, and that was
Oh
pretty
yeah,
cool. My
yeah.
first
Your
game
Ember
went,
Skies pods look spicy.
yeah, my Amber Skies, and it had double Reap the Wild Wind with a triple pipped contract negotiation, and I remember several cool games where I was able to like reveal contract to gain like 6 or 9 amber in one turn.
Hmm.
Fortunately, I lost to Cat Morrow after my 2 win streak, and one of them was against Dr. Sheep, and my favorite game against him because I was able to. He had two like Logos creatures, a Daughter, and then the guy that taps to at the end of your turn to draw a card, Articulated Wren.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was able to Harlan Mindlock both of those creatures, and then the Articulated Wren had a art upgrade to action draw 2 cards. So I had all these cards in my hand, and he had nothing. He just had nothing, and just stuck. So that was a really fun, good game. But like I said, my 2 losses were Cat Morrow, and then right after that was Drazcor. I'll get you next time, Drazcor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I just sent JT a link to the Alliance deck that I played for Ember Skies Open, and it was I opened it and I was like, okay, like this stuff is like it's got some okay things going for it. I actually thought it was had a little bit better SAS than it did. And then I started playing with it, and it was like people would ask me like how I'm doing, and I think I started 2-0 before I lost the game to Sunday, and they were like, oh yeah, like what's your build like? I was like, I have a red line rotation and a bunch of junk, and that's like kind of the story, and it felt like it was enough because there was just enough key control in it to really take advantage of that. And I forget the record. It was enough to get top 8 in sealed open with this pile, which was like after I scanned them, it was way lower SAS than I expected it to be. Makes me pretty proud of what I was able to do with this. Just some capture in Mars with like the Cobalt Capulet and the Yandlinks to kind of support the red line rotation, the pile of skulls to support it as well. Some really fun games. Like I really liked the Ember Sky sealed experience of like it felt like small ball again, right? Like if you don't have the Drakes or you don't have like a ton of the power cards, I did have the red line, but like to take advantage of the red line, I really felt like I needed to like maximize my situation,
Mm-hmm.
and that involved like some tricky Mars plays and the Tangrant to play Mars cards off house, like things like that. It felt really good as far as sealed experiences go. So I
It
was ecstatic to play this to top
It
8.
felt fair, I
It
feel
did,
like.
yeah.
It's one of my favorite sealed experiences so far.
I
Totally.
agree with that.
Totally.
I really enjoyed it.
Mm.
Yeah, and the strong things, I mean, I guess setting aside shenanigans with corner of the market, house enhancements, and in here somewheres, right? Like most of the really strong things that you can do feel like yeah strong, but things that you can interact with, which is really nice. So like okay, we've like seen big swing, big steel cards. We like know how to deal with those. It's not like an OTK combo sort of situation,
Mm.
for sure. I have a I have a fun let's I don't know riddle challenge for you both. This came up in one of my games, actually against Flightless Pheasant, who I had the pleasure of playing in the Grim Reminder side. Um, so you both ready? We ended up calling a judge over because it was a little bit of a brain buster. But
Yeah, I'm ready to see it. What is this?
yeah, so I have a replay pod in play. Replay pod says each friendly Mars creature gains destroyed. Place this creature face down under replay pod. And then the artifact replay pod also has an action. Put each card under replay pod into your hand. Purge replay pod. Okay. Uh, I am playing a deck with Zip the Implanter, and I had used it to steal the pheasant's Mars creatures. So I have on my side of the battlefield my opponent's. I have Mars creatures that belong to my opponent, right? And my opponent then plays a board wipe. I believe it was doesn't matter what it was. It was not Kazap. It was
And it wasn't Kaboom.
it was not Kaboom. Excuse me. It was not Kaboom. Not one that's going to archive them. It was like de-escalation. Let's say it's de-escalation, right? So I have their Mars creature on my side of the board, and then the destroy effect triggers. And then the question is, what happens to their Mars creatures? Yeah.
Gets placed under replay pod.
Mhm.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
But on action, it would return to their hand.
Also,
Yes.
also what I believe too, the
I,
ruling.
I I'm
of-
with B-Hawk, and I can already tell from the tone of your voice you're going to say he's wrong, but I'm still going to say it. I'm totally with B-Hawk
That's
on
how
this one.
that is ruled. Because is it when it's on your side of the field, it's considered a friendly creature, whether
Uh-huh.
it's owned by you or not. Friendly does not insinuate ownership. But
Totally.
because put each card into under replay pod into your hand, that your hand is actually in a legal zone for an opponent's card. So it would go
Mhm.
to the corresponding hand, which would be their hand. But what I'm guessing it was ruled differently
If that was the
by
ruling
Key or Sophaltis.
by G, yeah, by G.
Okay, well he's wrong.
Let's hear. I'm going to hear it
Let's
out.
hear
I
it.
want to
Let's
hear it
hear it.
out.
So we called G over, and we're like, all right, what happens here? Because it was a little bit messy, and we looked at it. We kind of scratched our heads for a little bit, and eventually he goes, as resolving the destroyed trigger, it goes directly to their discard pile, not on the action, but as part of the destroyed, and the rationale was that this is an abduction effect where there's no clause that indicates what you should do with the creature when it leaves the face down zone underneath replay pod. And so it doesn't actually let it go
It
there.
doesn't need it. Oh, they need to errata all the Mars cards that say what happens to abducted cards. They need to stop doubling down on this dumb ruling.
And
Yeah.
and he got me too, because I was like, oh, I'm like 40% sure, and I think I said exactly this to him. I was like, I'm 40% sure you're wrong, but that's cool. Let's go with it. And I was thinking about it. I was like, well, what about Scoop Up, right? Because Scoop Up has an abduction clause on the creature you scoop from your opponent's side of the board, but not your own, right? Like as printed,
Yeah,
Scoop Up says, oh, if your opponent's creature leaves your archives, put it in their wherever hand or whatever. But the card that you take from your side, it doesn't have
it
an
doesn't have
abduction
that
clause.
stipulation. Yeah.
But it was errated to have one. And so I think now all of the abduction cards have erratas. And this is, well, minus this one. Minus this one. This is the lone. The
I
lone
heard
holdout.
actually in the Q&A that I missed. Were you guys there for it?
I was there for most of it. Yeah.
I heard that they're not gonna unerrata cards.
Well, someone specifically asked in the Q&A, since we have things like closed door negotiation and red line rotation and all these other powerful cards, would you consider unerrataing bait and switch to go back to the original bait and switch? And Michael's response was very succinct and just said, "Don't hold your breath."
Interesting. As Beehawk holds his breath.
You're just a
Uh,
contrarian.
yeah, but I remember the article when they released errata on some of these abductor cards, and I thought it was the dumbest thing I'd never seen. Sorry,
I think,
GG, it's dumb. It's
yeah,
dumb.
sorry G and sorry GG. Um, but I do agree that like part of the cool thing about the abduction is that you can like do experiments on the opponent's creature and like you
Yeah,
should be able to
like
purge them from your
entropic.
archives.
What is it called? Entropic is
Crop circles.
there's crop circles, but then
Yeah.
there's the other one that discards a card from your hand to deal 2 extra damage to something, right?
Yeah. I know which one you mean. It's from AOA. I don't remember
Yeah.
the name at the moment.
It-
But yeah, like you should be able to purge cards from your own archive that belong to your opponent. That's the most Martian thing you can do.
right.
So it's a flavor miss, I would say. It's the nicest way I can
Huge
put it.
flavor miss.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Fashionator's
you
right.
got.
B-Hawk hates maintaining proper game states.
That's fair. That is fair. Uh,
So
yeah, it is entropic manipulator. I
Wait,
was
no,
no,
so
Entropic
no. Entropic
Manipulator is the
Manipulator
one that
moves damage around.
moves
Yeah,
the damage. Yeah.
yeah.
It's not Entropic Manipulator.
I know
It
the one you
is,
mean though. Oof, this is great radio, but I know exactly the one you mean. I think no drone falls into this category as well.
No,
Yeah.
Is
you're
no
thinking.
drone, because you actually
Is no drone.
you
Yeah.
can purge an opponent's archive card with Yizviz no drone, and that works just as you'd like it to. But I think if you purge one of your opponent's cards that's in your archives, it does not do the things that you expect it to do.
Right. It just goes straight back to their hand.
Right.
Yeah,
I believe
Yeah.
that's the
So
case.
that's the problem with the abduction clause.
it's
Destructive
so
analysis. Thank you,
destructive
Floxamol.
analysis. Yeah,
Floxamol, right on brand, knows exactly the Mars card we're looking for. Thank
that
you.
yeah, that card is begging to get rid of your opponent's archived cards.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's just silly.
We
Yeah.
have
They
Well,
instead of making it be follow the rules, like hey, there's like your hand should be in a legal zone. If anything would try and go to your hand, it goes to the corresponding opponent's hand instead, or discard. Like nothing can. Your discard is an illegal zone for your opponent's creatures as well. Your library is an illegal zone for your opponent's creatures. Just make illegal zones for opponent's creatures, and then that whole stipulation on what happens to them when they leave the archives or zone or whatever is already solved by the rules.
so JT, the end of the story is just that that was the ruling that was made, and
oh
that's the
yeah,
current
and
precedent.
and having explained to me, and by the way, thank you, G. That was great. That was great. Appreciated the explanation. I mean, and we had a follow up. We had a kind of follow up conversation that was also great about like, yeah, this is how it is, and like when we push on one area, it pulls on the other, so that we've got this kind of web that we're trying to manage of interactions, and that totally understand that like this is not doing the thing that intuitively it feels like it should be doing, and that's not a great thing. And we'd like to get there. And yeah,
Yeah.
but
There's the English language, and then there's the Keyforge English language. They're two very different
Yeah,
things.
and casual kitchen tabletop Keyforge, they're gonna be discarding your opponent's archives to
Mm-hmm.
deal the extra damage. Like
Yep.
that's what should happen.
Yep. When I learned the
Uh,
crop circles ruling that like you can't purge your opponent's cards, the first thing I thought of was like I dread having to tell like my local
some
casual players that aren't following the updates to the tournament guide that like nope, can't do that. Sorry.
this is the
Well,
old.
I remember the whole Archimedes ruling, how that was huge, and it was so unintuitive. So for so many players, it was like, what do you mean I archive my battle line? Luckily, they finally unwound that web of Archimedes ruling, but like I remember the tournament when that was in play, and the newer player was like, I literally quit Keyforge. Like I had the
Do you know what's
game
crazy
before me.
though? Is like that original Archimedes ruling is like almost as good as Winds of Death.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
Funny, funny. Yeah,
Well,
when knowing the
uh,
rules is as good as cheating, right? And then you feel like you're cheating when you explain them to the locals who don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
nice.
Well,
We
Yep.
digress.
Okay.
we do
Digress.
digress. Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, we're focused on the rulings that we disagree with, but that takes away from like the broader point that this was an amazing weekend. G and Marcus did incredible. They had
they
so
did.
many tournaments
I
to
love
look after.
all the things they did. They were
They're
so amazing. I
they're
like that they
legends.
showed up for the Scrubs Revenge party.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Sydney
Yeah.
made these awesome plaques for them.
And they
That was
deserved
just
it.
so
Yeah.
cool.
They're
Yeah,
awesome.
they definitely are the kings and everything of this community. It's so
Yeah. I
cool.
mean, they Marcus was at every single Vault Tour this year, I think they said, right?
That's amazing.
That's incredible. And like
Hmm.
giving his time to make sure that we could play this game by the rules and make sure that these tournaments went smoothly, like incredible that he was at every one. Really cool.
Hmm. Yeah, that was
Um,
awesome. I also at the Scrubs Revenge party, I remember we managed to play some Keymander with June.
that was my first Keymander game.
Yeah, why don't you tell me about it?
It was interesting. So yeah, like June had signed up for Kagi, and June was like, "You guys, I'm gonna sign up for Kagi. You guys need to play some Keymander with us." And I was like, "All right, that's fair. Fair is fair." And I was talking to you before then. And you're like, "Hey, I got this great Keymander deck for you. Like, you'll really like it." And I'd only seen Keymander played. I didn't know the rules, and you give me this deck, and you're like, "Yeah, this has 6 Dark Amber Vaults in it and a boatload of mutants." And I was like, "All right, that sounds cool." And you know, being how I am, I shuffled the deck. and I didn't offer a cut, and then my opening hand has three of the six Dark Amber Vaults in it, and the rest is history. There's a picture of me that you're showing on stream now of my entire 72 card deck in hand, um, which happens when you have like 12 Logos mutants and you draw five cards every time you play one. I think June's exact words were that Beehawk broke Keymander. Is that what she said?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a social contract I did not abide by, and I had the most fun losing and seeing that side of the table over there. Oh man, that was fun. And June just like looking between like you and me, and it was like, it's your fault. I'm like, I
It
know
is.
it's my fault, and I didn't bring anything competitive enough to fight that.
You were like, I have two Gravitrons and a Niflkong, and we're just
Yeah,
like, okay, have
yeah,
fun.
yeah. Yeah, I
Uh,
archived 10 cards. I drew 15, like
Yeah. My
half
favorite
of
part of that
three
game though
queens.
was that like I played, you can see in this picture I have probably a dozen Logos mutants in play right there. Including two Jargogles. One of the Jargogles I just got bored and forgot to put a second card under it. Um, but the first Jargogle I was really excited. I put an Arise under it. And you
Ah.
and June were like, "We got to kill that Professor Torado over there. He's got too many mutants. We can't let him like Torado the mutants." And little did she know that there was an Arise under my Jargogle, and no one killed the Jargogle. So
Oh.
just fight with the Jargogle, bring the Torado back, draw the whole deck again. Um, so that's Keymander in a nutshell, but it definitely made me appreciate the fun side of Keyforge, right? Like if you played that in Alliance, I would kind of look down on it, right? But that's just me being biased and unfair. Like approaching Keymander and even Alliance in a more casual and fun-loving way, like really lets you enjoy those kind of things that those weird things that you can do in Keyforge. Just because you're playing with a 72 card deck doesn't mean that you can't have fun with it and do weird things and enjoy those weird events that happen.
It's kind of like Alliance 2.0 because it's like it's six pods, three houses, but
And you mix
um,
sets as well, right?
yeah, any set, which is
Yeah.
why that Dark Amber Vault deck is probably half at least um, Menagerie decks.
Ah, right
Yeah,
on.
I
Right
don't
on.
just have a lot of Archon worthy dab decks laying around. Maybe just one, but yeah. That's where they came from. I also managed to pick up some of these. Uh, Key Mander, it's a deck 2.0 Community Edition from Fabulousing, and they have 30 of the new cards, including 23 new commanders from community members and two Commander 1.1 late designs that were not from the initial release. So I'm excited to have these. One of the formats I was really excited about this weekend with Commander was sealed single deck Commander, where you
Mm-hmm.
just have one deck and you get dealt out like six Commanders to try and like pair best with your deck that you're gonna play with. That was really fun. That was cool to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah,
And
this is my first time playing Commander. I had a blast with it. Like we
mm,
played Sealed as well. You two were in the other game next to me. You guys played DT Sealed Commander, if I'm not
that
mistaken.
was the grindiest. It felt like a real Keymander game. Like the Keymander games where like you're in a deadlock trying not to let anyone forge and somehow there's things on the board where you're able to do it. That is like a true Keymander game, I feel like, and that we somehow found that with these random sealed DT decks. It was amazing. It was
That's
so good.
awesome. Yeah,
That
I
was a
played
blast.
Sealed Vaultmaster 24 Keymander, and that was a really good time. Like we had a very close game. It was me, Sunday, and Fabulousing, and it ended up we all forged at least two keys. It came down to the wire. Like really good game, really strategic.
Hmm.
Uh, the Keymander, it's super well developed, super well done. I know Fabulous Thing is trying to get a reprint of the 1.1, and I'm going to try to get my hands on those.
Hmm.
So,
For sure. Same. Yeah, I like the Keymander rules as they are, but I also like to play with variances. So, and it's like it's a social game, so like you can literally make a house rule with the people you play with. And one of the things we like to do is mix it because we usually only have three players. We play with the boon token from DevDev's multiplayer rules, and having the boon token incentivizes you to stop the next person from forging a key, or you destroy a creature or a permanent or something. So there's different things you can do to interrupt the person on the left side of you. And if you do, you get a boon token, which you get to redeem for an extra card when you draw up or
Hmm.
something.
Hmm.
So it's like it's a cool little thing to keep you not. It prevents you from just going after one person.
Hmm.
Like you might be going after one person, but the other person's gonna go after you. Like it
I like
goes in a
that.
circle.
I like that, but at the same time, I also liked that I had a little bit of like there was some interplay and table talk happening in Keymander because you're
Hmm.
playing multiplayer, and so it was me, and then to my left was Fabulous Thing, and then to my right was Sunday, and Fabulous Thing was on check for a key, and Sunday was like, "Can you stop her?" And I was like, "Nope," knowing that I had like Ronnie and a bunch of other stuff in my hand that I could
you,
absolutely stop her
you,
just to make Sunday go after her instead. So like,
yeah,
I like that table talk, but that boon you're talking about is like it's just direct incentive to not, like to just battle the person to your left, which I think is it probably helps with Kingmaker, I would
yeah.
assume.
It helps prevent Kingmaker, I think.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
And also what I like about that rule set is it uses distinctive amber. So like if your amber's on that creature, no matter what, unless they donate it back to you, you're gonna get that amber back if somebody board wipes.
Mm,
So it becomes a lot more interesting of a decision on playing Hysteria or playing a board wipe instead of just all of the amber going to the person who had strange gizmo go off. Like
yeah,
that's just kind of um, a little bit of the rules were like it's okay, it's fun, it makes for a fun social engagement, but I like the decision space with distinctive amber a little bit more.
I think I like that too. Yeah,
Hmm.
very interesting.
I like the distinctive amber as well. We were playing with kind of anything goes amber. I'm not sure if there was a name
Yeah,
for it, and definitely had this like. There got to a point where we were like, you did have strange gizmo on the board. It was threatening to pop, and in my mind
everyone
at
was like
least,
no.
yeah, like this can't happen. But well, there were two phases. There was the like this can't happen phase, and then there was like, all right, Ben's just gonna get
The
a boatload of
acceptance
amber.
fade.
Like I have to like just make sure I could win before that amber gives it three keys. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, yeah. At some point there was an acceptance, and actually June accepted it a turn before it was happening because I think you took me off down to 5,
Mm-hmm.
and she didn't know. She thought I was at 6, and yeah, so that
Mm.
was just kind of funny. That was a fun interaction. That was so much fun.
A lot of fun.
Commander was great. I had never played it before, like I said, but I can't wait to get a deck and play with my locals because my locals infamously always have an odd number, and Commander is
Mm.
perfectly fine to play with three.
Hmm.
So I'm really looking forward to getting that.
Yeah.
I did not think I was
Also,
gonna like it
did
as
you
much
get
as I
the
did. Yeah.
big Volt Assault?
I didn't. I tried to get the regular sized Vault Assault. I did not get the extra large Vault Assault. I have it print and play at home, but
Sweet.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Baltasar was on my list to pick up. I didn't grab it. I do want to grab a Keymander set. So I don't know, Fab or June, if you're listening, I would love to grab a set. Uh, so Keymander plus some of the creator cards are things that I want to use for play by post games. I
hmm.
think that'd be a lot of fun. Yeah.
How many creator cards did you guys collect over the weekend?
Oof.
I believe 4.
I think I only got three.
Three.
I did get one of Zox, one of the Bad Pennies, uh, Bad Penny Press, Archon's Corner, and then Slappy Lab. I think I'm at 4.
I didn't get Zox. I didn't actually see Zox. Who was giving away Zox? Because Zox was not there.
Uh, Someone from the Bad Penny Press did, and I think
Okay,
that wasn't that part of an
probably Dead Sync
exchange
then.
for the Slappy Lab
Well,
near the same.
JT managed to reach Dead Sync before me, and so JT got the full set.
So
Nice.
not only full set. I'm gonna grab it here in a second. But each of the creators got a full set with special treatment. So they're like altered borders and different frames, and they look absolutely gorgeous. So we have those. I do plan to. I'm gonna say this for the listeners. You all know I'm lying, but I plan to share this with the other sloppies. Maybe we'll divvy them up. I don't know. We'll divvy them up or share them around somehow. I do want to play some play by post games with them though. Absolutely.
Although I will say one of my favorite cards that I got was the Quackomedes from Kagi.
Ooh, I have
That
a
was a really
Quackomedes
nice
on
one.
me.
That was a really good one.
Is this the one you're talking about, the chain tracker,
Yeah.
or? Yeah, so this was part of Kagi. I mean, we'll talk about Kagi in a second, I think. Um, but the creator cards were very cool. I think there were 10 in total. I can't name them all right now. I only got three. JT was saying that they had like some special edition ones, but they all add like a sort of a static effect to the game or something that players can take advantage of. I'm really proud of the one that we made with Dead Sync. The art on it is incredible. There's tons of Easter eggs in it. There it is right there.
Ooh.
If you get your hands on it, you can see it. Maybe we'll post an image of it on the show notes. Um, it just changes the game state in a way like at the I think it's like right before the draw card step of every player's turn, they can discard a card. That's the way to stay sloppy is
Yep.
ABCD, right?
Hmm.
And so all the different creators had their own effects that they worked with Dead Sync and Bad Penny Press on, and it just adds tons of cool flavor, a little twist on the game, so you can just kind of play those as static effects to change how the game's played with you and your opponent in a casual setting. Super fun, really great idea. A ton of people were asking about them all weekend. We were able to give away, I think, all of them. I think I came home with maybe two, but I was giving them away to Kagi players. So if you played Kagi, especially against me, you would have gotten one.
Hmm.
Um, just such a cool idea. Like another aspect of making what makes celebration like really a celebration.
Yeah. So we gave
That's
a bunch away to Kagi Live players. I think the majority of them were given away to Kagi Live players. I also gave away about a dozen to folks who recorded $1 billion Plan $5 blunders with us. So that was a lot of fun. Appreciate the folks who who participated in that. I know it's like I don't know, it can be a little bit nerve wracking. Like, do I want to like share this? But it's in good fun. And I think what we're gonna do with that is I'm gonna take all of those that were recorded at KFC and put them together for sort of a little follow up to this, maybe for next week's drop. And yeah, so look forward to that coming. If you were one of the folks who recorded a BDP5DB at KFC.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Do you want to talk about Kagi Live now? Kagi Live was amazing.
Sure.
Oh,
I mentioned earlier.
one last
Oh,
thing. I
yeah.
don't think we actually said so. Dead Sync put that all together with the Bad Penny Press folks. So major kudos to Dead Sync. They came out looking incredible and they were a lot of fun. I think they added a lot to the weekend. So many thanks to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right.
So,
Proceed.
Kagi Live. So Bhuck, I mentioned earlier, got top four. We, along with Murph, running Kagi, ran Kagi Live, which was think of it like menagerie leagues that you've seen at different vault tours. We basically did it for adaptive best of one, and we included a top cut. So for all the people that played through the end of Saturday, we had the top two from each pod move on to a top four like final confrontation on Sunday morning. And so we had in the top four was, as we mentioned, Beehawk is joined by Stormstrong, Shaka, and Andy P. Um, they all played. You guys all played. I think everyone in that group played like at least 8 games, 7 or 8 games. Just adaptive best of one. But like the thing that made me so happy was how many people came up to me during and after the weekend to say that like their Kagi games were the most fun they had playing Keyforge all weekend. Like it
That's
just
good.
it really made it for me. I was just so
Hmm.
happy to hear that from people. I know people played like a lot of their favorite decks that weren't quite good enough to play in an Archon or Alliance event. Like Ashitaka played his famous Ortiz, that's his favorite deck. I know you played G Red, your Sins deck, Behawk.
I did.
Um, I played a deck that I had my eyes on for literally years to try to acquire, and I finally got it at KFC and got to play it at Kagi. So it's just like these unique decks that you don't get a chance to play in competitive events. People brought them out for Kagi, and it was a wonderful thing. And people just surprised. People loved playing their favorite decks.
Yeah, I really enjoyed playing with my Sins deck, especially when people were giving them to me with no chains. And actually, they took chains on their deck. And it wasn't until after the game that I found out, yeah, there was no way I was going to play with your deck. And I was like, what? Why? Why?
So you're
It's
just
I.
you're just getting them up.
I was like, it's French. I can't read it. I'm like, I, we. Oh gosh. Like I am that. As soon as clones became a thing, I immediately ordered an English copy of my Sins deck.
I was sitting next to you at the keynote, and we're going to jump around a little bit, I guess. But at the keynote, they talked about deck clones and being able to order them in your own language. I was sitting next to you, and I'm pretty sure you immediately pulled up this deck on your phone and ordered it. Like you might have been the first person to order a clone.
Maybe, maybe,
It was a
maybe.
very, very cool idea from Gigi
Hmm.
to unveil it like this. Like I'm gonna be honest. So like going into this KFC, I did say that I wanted to see something from GG that was done. I didn't want to see them say like here's something we're planning for a couple of months from now. I wanted to see something done. And deck clones, I was very happy to see they were said, "Yep, this is done. You can literally go on your phone right now and order it." And you did just that.
I did. I did.
So I have to ask too. We noticed in the moment though that it didn't seem like DT decks were clonable in the moment. Did you get a chance to chat with them at all? Was that just like an oversight in the moment, or
It was not an oversight, but I did ask about it in the Q&A,
okay?
and because I didn't actually know about it until a couple hours later, Murph messaged me, and he's like, "Quick, you can't get DT clones," and I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" I was gonna
Murph
lose it.
is ruining Quick's
Murph.
favorite moment.
So I did at the Q&A on Sunday. Before I left, I did ask them. I said, "Hey, you made these clones. I know that you made the clone backs identical, so every clone has the same exact back as each other. So the DT issue of not having the Archon images is moot." And I said, you made these clones have the same back. Is there a reason you can't do DT, and do you plan on adding that? And the long story short is that yes, they plan on allowing DT clones in the future, and they are still working on repairing the database for DT. So it was more than just the Archon images that was lost by FFG. It was also a number of the high res card images they don't have,
Hmm.
and some other database issues with evil twins. So they are working on it. They sounded reasonably confident that they would have a solution for it, and they would be able to print DT clones in the. I think their words were like somewhat near future. I joked with them saying like 4 to 6 weeks, and they laughed and said no, that we didn't say that. But the
On
impression I
record.
got was like possibly Q1 2025 we could
Okay.
get DT clones.
Okay.
And
So
I mean, I made that
eight
up.
weeks.
I'm not I don't intentionally put words in their mouth. They did not give a timeline on it, but they kind of
Yeah.
sounded like, yeah, like we're working on it. It should be there, and uh, relatively soon, I think is what they said.
Yeah. Hearing that there's so much wrong with the DT stuff from, I mean, we suspected there was a ransomware or something attack with Keyforge. Like maybe some of that data did get corrupted, or maybe it was just in the transfer that they didn't do it right. But
Yeah,
it's unfortunate that that's gonna happen, but it is possible for them to do it. So that's cool.
yeah.
Hmm.
I'm
And
fingers
I think
crossed it
holding
comes.
up that feature for the one person that's gonna use it versus all these other people. Sorry. Uh,
Listen, my only criticism of this is that I wish during the keynote they would have just openly said, "Hey, we can't do DT right now. We're working on it. We hope to fix it."
yeah, yeah,
Instead, it was kind of buried, and they let the players find out the hard way that they couldn't order DT decks.
that's
Because
fair.
like yeah, if they would have just said that, like, "Hey, like DT's not ready yet. We're hoping to get there," I would have been
Mm.
ecstatic. But instead, it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth because I found out later that night from Murph that like I couldn't even order my DT decks. And as I've gone through my collection and like in my head, like, oh, which ones do I want clones of? It's like that's a DT deck. That's a DT deck. They're all DT. So yeah, I mean, I just kind of wish they would have said that up front, but I'm glad that we got an answer from them in the Q&A.
Yeah, for sure. That's
You
good.
you got to stop letting people walk away with your creatures as like whirlpool collateral. You know, it's like you shuffle it back in. You're like, oh, my card is in your battle line at the end of the game. Just got to be extra careful, quick draw. And
It's like their punishment for people like letting your opponent walk away with your cards. Is like, you want to play DT and Whirlpool? We're not going to give you a clone. Like
Yeah,
this is your problem. You did this to
uh,
yourself.
well,
you did.
steps being made. I don't know. It sounds like well, we'll see.
I'm super excited for clones. And also, if you didn't hear, clones are also going to be able to have accolades on them. So if you contended in the World Championships last year or
Hmm.
this year, your deck is going to have a stamp on it when it gets printed as a clone, It's going to be on the front of the card on the right side. If bonus ambers on the left, on the right is these badges that you'll be able to see. And there's also going to be a little symbol that denotes that this is a cloned card. So I just think it's all in all like a really cool thing that they did with it.
Hmm.
I like it. I wish that we could have more badges, like top four
Yeah,
or top two or
yeah.
something, runner
I
up,
think right now, if I'm not mistaken, it is only going to be for World Championship contending decks, so any deck played in the World Championship, and then
and then
any
vault
deck that
champions.
won a Vault Tour, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But
So,
I wish that the badge for the vault also said that it's a champion or something, because it's
mm,
they're using iconography that isn't defined yet.
Future proof that a little bit might have been nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
but
Interesting.
very cool idea. It's
hmm
really exciting.
Uh, I also really I think I saw someone mention is like, are we gonna see a collection of the competitive stack from Archon of like the top 8 decks from Worlds as like a bundle to to test your metal against, or
Well, I think
but with
only the owner can get clones, right?
right. So man, I don't know if you guys recall, but Magic did something similar where they made proxy decks of the World Championship
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Pro Series decks. Um, only for a few years, but I loved having access to those. Those were one of my favorite things to get. And I wish we could do the same with Keyforge.
Well, like I think the community is very tight knit, and I think the
Mm,
top eight all know each other, and so perhaps the top eight could reach out to each other and say like, "Hey, why don't we all order clones and sell it in a bundle, and we can each make like 25
uh,
bucks a pop, and
yeah,
just say like, hey, here's all eight top eight decks from Worlds this year."
right. So 8 times 25, that's 200 bucks.
It's an
So
expensive box
you're
set.
looking at
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
for
good
I mean,
solid.
proxies.
people could spend, you know, if you wanted to get the copies of those eight decks, you could proxy them from your bulk
Yeah,
decks for free,
Mm-hmm.
or you could pay a lot of money and get the accolades on them from the
yeah,
owners.
yeah. That'd be
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
If anyone's interested in a Seven Sins deck, just DM me. Send you a clone. $60. It's yours.
Seven Sins though is, you might have some interested parties
Just saying, it's one of the best decks ever,
ever.
ever.
It
And
doesn't matter that it doesn't have a board wipe. Who cares?
it it doesn't. Who needs a board wipe when you've got Pride and Seven Sins? I mean,
And sloth, and
Sloth,
envy, and greed, and wrath.
Gluttony, Desire,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
all
Mm-hmm.
good.
Yeah. Dennis actually
I
has something to
remember
say about that,
playing with
no?
Stormstrong actually in the semifinals, and he's like, "What sin is this?" And he's pointing at it. I'm like, "Oh, that's Snoret." He's like, "Oh, no wonder I couldn't find it on here." He's clicking through all the sins, and he's like, "No."
Yeah. I
uh,
mean, so all right, we'll go back to Kagi then. I mean, we allowed people to play any language, any tournament legal deck in Kagi is fine.
mm,
I know a number of people played foreign language decks. And so hopefully with clones, this kind of might be a moot point in the future. You could just print out an English copy of your Sin stack and not worry about that kind of issue.
right. Should be cool. And I see Barcetius mentioning that he needed a board wipe. It's because he was the first opponent to actually use my sins deck
Mm.
against me. Uh, we both like I don't even remember. Did we bid chains on his deck? I think so. I think he let me ended up having it, and I had to fight to get the sins down. But I knew all the weaknesses of the deck, so it wasn't a big problem. But yeah, that was kind of interesting. He was the first one to be like, "No, I'll play with the sins."
That's the
He was
fun
like,
part about Kagi to me. It's like you knew
"Yeah,
your deck's weakness. You knew how to attack it. You knew
yeah,
what to do if you were going up against it. That's what I
mhm,
love the most about adaptive.
yeah."
So I'm curious. Did you all? And this was a question from the chat too. Did you all play the same deck in each of your adaptive matches? I know I packed like 10 adaptive decks. I ended up playing one of them.
Yeah,
I packed probably five adaptive decks, and I don't think I played a single one that I packed. I ended up just playing decks that I had acquired from people that like I had bought and they brought to KFC for me.
Wow.
Um, So I only played I think 5 Kagi matches in total, and most of them were played with this mass mutation deck that I've wanted for so long that Astron gave me. Thank you so much, Astron. It's a mass mutation deck with a legacy time traveler and a legacy helper bot,
That's so
and
cool.
like 6 or 7 cards that make the opponent discard a card. So it's
Mm.
just like it's a very cadgy light deck. Keyforge as JT intended. Just make your opponent discard everything and not able to do something.
Yeah,
Super fun deck.
that sounds like a really cool deck. I only played the Sins deck except for the one game against you, Quick Draw, where we decided to do blind sealed,
Oh
and
yeah. Oh,
my deck that I opened, Aegis, was Vlad. No, it was Vlad the Agrarian, an 88 SAS MM deck,
yeah.
had
Really spicy.
nine chains on it, and it was not an
I think I gave it to you for 10.
10
And I played
chains.
a 63 SAS DT, and which deck won, B-Hawk?
The DT deck did.
Did you forge any keys?
I don't even think I did.
I don't think you did either. DT best set.
That was brutal.
There. That's fun though. Like sealed adaptive is super cool, and I loved that playing in Kagi. I was just kind of like whatever you and your opponent agree to. If you're playing adaptive, like count it as a Kagi match. That's cool. And so you and I were like, let's just open a deck, play adaptive with it. It was actually
Hmm.
Snack Forge we played. So we had M&Ms and
Ah,
Goldfish.
right, yeah.
That was
I
fun.
maybe lost a couple amber from snacking.
The snack
That's
tax on your amber, man. There
that's
you
your
go.
excuse. You're gonna stick to your story on that. Is that right?
I mean, maybe. We'll see.
It
I
would have
don't
been
know.
closer if you weren't hungry.
Maybe.
This is
Yeah, that's fair.
the munch mutations in action, my man. It just like keeps going. Also, while we're talking
Hmm.
about Snack Forge, we kind of breezed by it when we talked about the Scrubs Revenge party before. Like Sydney Steele, SC Steele, like MVP, one of the MVPs of this event. Like she put so much into the scrub. Like I'm sitting here and I've got like my drink, my tea sitting on a Scrubs Revenge coaster, and I was like,
Yeah.
Oh, where'd you get that? I didn't
oh,
get a coaster.
this is nice too. It's like nice and you feel that nice solid coaster right
Yeah,
there.
you
This
hear
is
that?
like yeah. And I'm like and
Dang.
all day I was drinking and at work sipping out of my Scrubs Revenge mug. It's like holy moly, uh,
I missed all this swag.
it was
Well,
all
actually,
out. Oh
you
my
and I are
gosh.
like the only sloppies that didn't win because some of the shot glasses were special, like raffle shot glasses, basically. Miguel,
Mm-hmm.
you,
Yeah, not
JT,
tonight.
and Not Tonight all got it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It was
So
and like so
just
not tonight walks
packs
up
and
Knock Knight walks up with one of the special shot glasses at the end of the night. It's like I won the thing. Like, what do I get? And then her arms get laden with like displays and displays and like all this swag. And like I'm sitting next to her and like it spills over into me. That's how much how much prize there was. And, like now I'm holding prizes too. It
It's
was just
like
like
when you go to
blew my
the
mind.
casino and you accidentally win in a slot machine and the thing just keeps pouring out coins. That's what Not Tonight was like.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
that's so cool.
that whole party like SC still like holy moly over
She
and above.
she's
What a
amazing. I'm so glad that she put that together. It was a huge, amazing hit. Everyone loved it. It was a great time. I hope she's happy and proud of it because it was one of the best things I've seen.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's such a cool experience.
And
And
it wasn't just that party. She also put together the podcasters panel on Sunday afternoon
That was
with
so fun.
yeah, 10 different podcasters including JT and I kind of just talking about, our place in the community and what we enjoy about it and what our goal is. So she also put that together. She had an incredibly busy weekend, especially leading up to it, planning leading up to it. So kudos to SC Steel for everything she did.
Hmm.
mm-hmm. Totally. And
You're
like
amazing if
and
you're listening.
and just to show you like how successful she was in promoting that event, like Ghost Galaxy, like not their fault. Like they have limited space and they're running a large event. Like we that event got put on like the complete other side of the game center, like tucked away. Like I had never even been to that wing of the game center. You know what I mean? I didn't know that that room was there. I was like, are people going to be able to find this? I don't know. Like it was packed. It was standing room only. Like that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Super
yeah.
fun. Super fun.
Ghost Galaxy should have put us in the second room. Like
Yeah, it would have
yeah,
made for tricky recording. I don't know if they were just trying to preserve their own space. Who knows? Who knows? I agree that we kind of got tucked away a little bit. But like again, kudos to her, kudos to other folks for spreading the word and making sure folks knew where to go. And
Mhm.
that was a blast too. That was a blast too.
Yeah, I liked it.
Faux show, faux show.
So we're an hour in and we haven't talked about the world champions.
We haven't. We also never mentioned TOC sealed
Mm-hmm.
or our Archon open decks, did we?
Nope. Nope.
I
No.
decided to have fun with Archon Open, and I played another deck that I had just acquired and never played before in my life, and I'm really glad I played it. It was a Grim Reminders deck with a Legacy Whirlpool, two Trawlers, mid-year festivities, some other shenanigans with Whirlpool, and I had a blast with it. I went 3-2 with it. Finally got eliminated against Drazcor playing a deck that an Ember Skies deck that I opened, and he ended up getting his hands on it. So like I giggled all day at that, like
Yeah, that
losing to a deck.
Vargas ended up selling him like the
Yeah,
night before. Like it was so funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the most fun I've had in Archon, and I am. If you guys have read any of the stuff that I've posted on slappylabwork.com and said on this show, like I I've struggled in the past at enjoying Archon, and I went into that one saying like I'm just gonna play something that's fun. I'm gonna try to have a good time, and I had a blast with it. Like I
That
just found
Whirlpool deck was nasty.
it
It
was
was
so good.
so good.
I can't wait to play that more. It's like very much up my alley, but it was just fun. Like
Yeah.
I encourage, there's a lot of people that want to um I don't want to say try hard because that's like kind of a negative connotation with it, but like you want to be competitive and you play an Archon and you want to win, and that's great. I feel that a lot as well. But like there's also a place to just say like I'm gonna play a deck that I'm gonna have fun with, win or lose. And I think I finally have learned to appreciate that aspect of this game in Archon tournaments. And I'm just super glad that I did that.
Mm. So
That's
not
awesome.
not tonight has this quote. I can't. I wish I could remember. She's gonna be not impressed. But the quote is from some game designer. It goes, winning is the goal, but it's not the point. You know, and so
Mhm.
like I do try hard when I'm sitting down, trying hard, but I'm also like, and this is again maybe getting to like the weekend felt like a celebration more than like a tournament to me. It's like, yeah, we're here, we're trying to win, but the point is more than that too. So like that makes me smile to hear that like yeah you were like found this whirlpool deck you could play and enjoyed your time playing Archon with it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
that is
think some of my
awesome.
opponents didn't enjoy it as much.
But I think it's
that's
worth a
that's
laugh about it.
that's when you know you're doing it
Uh
right. Yeah.
yeah, I remember so like actually going into the open for the Archon, I wasn't gonna do Alliance even though I was theory crafting, and the night before I opened a pod that would have been perfect for Thrall. I went 3-0 and TOC sealed. It's one of my favorite tokens of change decks I've ever opened. It's called Extraordinary Sting Leviathan with Red Line, Double Against All Flags, Double Arise, Shadow of Dis, Levy of Souls, Obsidian Forge,
Mm-hmm.
Double Cauldron. It's just like a really cool deck, and I thought about playing it in the open just because I liked playing it at night. But then I'm like, no, I think this belongs in a Thrall build. So I was kind of like looking, I was asking around, does anyone have Thrall as a token where the pod doesn't come from Dis, like it comes from Untamed or something? I struck out. I couldn't really find anyone. So I just ended up playing Reyna in the open, and I'm like, the good thing about Reyna is like we're 3 days in, right? These games. So Reyna is my double trainer, triple Longosaur Lector Scholar deck with triple Abyssal Sight. It's one of my favorite decks to play, and it's fast. Like I know, and I've gotten like the most like turn two concedes, turn four, turn five wins. Like it's one of my favorites. I knew the games were gonna like 3 days in. I wanted them short,
Mm.
and my first two games I got done, and I look at the clock and I see 28 minutes, and I'm like, this is great.
It's a
This
great
is
feeling.
fantastic. And second game, the same. I feel great. I'm winning. And then I went on two losses unexpectedly, but they were also over pretty much just as fast. Like 27 minutes. I just got just like the one against Ian, who ended up going 5-2. and lost the play-in round to top eight against this. My second loss was to this, who battled into the top eight against Ian. And he was playing a really nasty Wodka deck. And I remember being at two keys, something like 12 amber or something. And he just looks at me and he's like, "So you've done your scholar shenanigans. Let me do mine." And he just like proceeds to pick up his archives and he just does all this stuff and uses crop circles to take me down and key abduction to forge a key. And I'm like, oh
Wow.
my goodness. I thought I had it. I thought I had it, but good game. Good game, Ryan. So he got me. But that was a great game. But my deck felt great in every game, so I'm glad I played it.
So we
I
were
still know.
playing Archon Open at the same time that JT was playing in the World Championship for Alliance, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's see that.
First alliance I've ever crafted on the Master Vault, and it was a Thrall deck. Unfortunately, the Thrall came with the Dis Pod, right? So I aptly named this deck "Stay Sloppy." They said, right, which is an appropriate thing to say when you're throwing Thralls at your opponent, making them discard things. And I was locked in for this weekend to play. A deck that I was borrowing from Second Act, and thank you very much, Second Act. I didn't end up playing the deck, but I like super appreciate you letting me take it with me to this weekend. That was going to be his Plimpton deck, which is a monster, absolute monster. But I did end up doing well in the last chance qualifier, got a chance to play in the World Championship, and I was like, I can't turn this down. Like I gotta like take a shot at the World Championship event, and like I don't know if I would have felt good about doing that if not for like Miggy and Behawk in particular being like, "Yo, we got you. We'll do some brewing. Like we got stuff," and we put together this Thrall deck, which I think this was the absolute like perfect call for that event that weekend. Given that we didn't have like our entire collections to draw from, like this is a beautiful choice. Like I don't know. Like I think if you're talking about like world championship stuff type events, even like Vault Tour type events, then yeah, you're like Missile Officer Myers MDR things are going to be problematic. But if Alliance was ever like widespread at LGSs and getting played everywhere, I think you see Thralls like taking over. I don't know, just because they can be so oppressive, and what you need is a little bit more achievable. And like this was a ton of fun. I don't know, it was a ton of fun to play. I did go 0-2, like womp womp. I lost in 2 games, but they were actually great games. Like I say that I had a full hand of full hand in each of my games. My opponents were like struggling to cobble together things. First round was a I would say bad matchup against Sith and Angmar. They played it super well, and Thralls were tearing apart their hand. They managed to put together an archive that they could combo off with, and that's kind of an Achilles heel of the deck. And then the second game I lost to Donut's dad, former world champion, right? And I actually had that game I think locked in, and then blundered it away. And both games though were just much better Keyforge than I kind of had like in my mind would have been seen in an alliance event. Like they were like very tight games with like very very thinking, lots of decision making, and I lost on a mistake that I made. So it's like that's kind of a good feels in terms of like what it says for the game. Yeah, I'll tell more about the specific blunder maybe next week when we like reveal the BDP 5DBs. But
Mm.
it's an old
Yeah,
favorite coming back to bite me. And
yeah,
super.
that's awesome. I'm glad. And not tonight explaining like Miguel was like, I'm not sure if that was the right call, and then not tonight it was like, no, it was. You should have seen him explaining the game. But he was like so happy. I've never seen him so happy explaining how he played in Keyforge. So she
Hmm.
was super excited for you, and she was a little worried that you're going over to the dark side of Alliance.
So I don't think there's any risk of that. Mostly, so my what's holding me back from Alliance, like there are there are other kind of some other things swirling around, but at the crux of it too, like with my relationship with the game as a lifestyle game, like I can do the like brewing intense brewing thing for a couple days over a weekend, but like I don't know if I can do that long term. Like that's a different sort of like.
Like Miguel being on the grind of finding the perfect pod for 3 or 6 months or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm calling him out here, but Miguel said that he ordered a deck for a specific pod for Alliance from Spain
No,
and
that
had
was
it.
Vargast.
Oh, Vargas did this. Did he have it overnighted to
He had it
KFC?
sent. It was delivered to the hotel the night before he needed it.
Insane. From Spain.
Insane. From Spain.
Yeah.
Nice.
So is that the path you're going down, JT? You're going to be like
I
night before an event, be like, "Hey, like, sir, in Germany, can you please pay $125 and overnight this to me in Rochester?"
I like that. That's not going to be me, but I will say though, I was super touched by how many people like when they were like, "Oh, you're playing Alliance, but you don't have anything." Like, I got this thing for you, and even people who were like in the in the world champ, like the Alliance world champs, who I'd be facing against, like shout out to the Dutch players, right? Like Harmed and Lord Judo, Donkey Forge had great weekends. Like they were super awesome weekends. But we were like sitting down at breakfast and they're like, yeah, we're going to be rumbling against you shortly, but like, do you want this thrall pod that's like an upgrade on the thrall pod you're like expecting to play? And like, so many folks who were just kind of like, hey, I got something that if you want to jam, that's cool. So that was super touching to see. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we can take a moment here because I thought the international folks that came this time around, and there were more than ever. You mentioned the Dutch players, the French players, the Italian players, um, Riku and Bamboo from
We
Vietnam,
would be
Q from
remiss if we
Taiwan.
did not mention how great having them here was. Not
Everybody was
just not just
amazing.
them, not just Riku and Bamboo, but everyone.
Yeah.
But it was really awesome to be able to go to where did we go for dinner that one night? Where we there was so much confusion. Big Louie's.
Big Lily's, a little sports
Oh
bar
man.
up the street. Yeah.
Oh man.
Um,
Uh, and
but
having the
like just
ceremony there with
yeah, I mean, the people. Uh, it's just I can't say enough good things about everybody. Like I loved hanging out and talking. Everybody was so generous.
hmm
Like people literally brought me Whirlpool decks from all over the world. Like
wow.
it's just like I'm speechless. Like
hmm
how nice and generous. Like you're talking about the Dutch players like offering you a pod that you could potentially play against them and beat them with like the morning of a tournament. Like everybody was just there to have a good time and be good friends, and it was really magical, really touching.
It
Mm-hmm.
And
really speaks to the Keyforge community, I think, and why this game is so good. And it's not just that the game itself is the best gameplay, but also the people in it are just the best. Being able to see everyone, I don't think I could name them all, but
no,
uh, it's awesome.
So
It's so awesome.
yeah, if you're listening, GG folks, like the international presence at this event went a long way into making it what it was. I was very worried that with the travel vouchers going away as prizes in particular, we would see fewer international folks turning up, and then that snowballing into the folks who might have come but not qualified saying like, well, it's probably going to be all Americans. Like, do I want to show up? And that kind of snowballing. But like, no, they turned out in force. I'm sure some folks didn't, but like, it was surreal for me to sit down. And let's talk, our Australians too. Like, sit down, Australian too, sitting down at breakfast next to Astron, like hearing his voice in my ear and being like, I feel like I've known you for so long. And it's
yeah,
like I'm like just like seeing you in person for the first time, and it was very surreal. So I don't
hmm
know. It added a
yeah,
whole lot. I mean, to me personally, to have all those folks there. So if we were going to change one thing for, I mean, especially OPM prize support, I would love to see those travel vouchers coming back and making
yeah.
sure.
So that was actually
Hmm.
asked of GG in the Q&A, and unfortunately, it's not something they're prepared to add back in for next year. And I think their reasoning was that that's something that they want the partners and distributors in the other countries to fund because GG does not have the means or the funds and the logistics to be able to coordinate that effort. They are looking for partners in other countries to say like, yeah, we're fostering this community, and as a sign of support for this community, whoever wins this nationals tournament that we're going to organize will give you funds to go to the world championship. Ghost Galaxy is kind of deflecting the responsibility of that to the local areas, which I kind of see from a financial standpoint. I don't necessarily agree, but I'm not in Ghost Galaxy's accounting books. But I think if you're Ghost Galaxy and you start saying like, "Hey, we'll give $500 to every national champion to travel," you might see people being like, "Yeah, like I just hosted the national championship of you know Estonia or South Africa, and where's my money?" Like so I kind of understand where they're coming from, saying like we want a local partner to run events and fund that for us, but that is also a hard sell, I would say.
Maybe we need some more sponsorships in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Indeed.
Maybe some
Maybe
marketing would help.
marketing would be great. Even just getting a poster like for all the champs, like getting a poster sent to their home base of them and their deck and just like a general advertisement of what happened at Keyforge celebration at Worlds.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
It would be pretty cool to give a poster to Riku's store in Vietnam and say like, "This is the home of the Keyforge World Champion for Archon."
Yeah, and just hang them up somewhere. There's got
Yeah.
to be 2 feet by 3 feet of footage you can fill.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we're running close to 11 Eastern time. But let's talk quickly about the World
Champs.
Champions. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, we've talked a lot about Bamboo. She won the Archon World Championship over Flaming Hobo. Incredibly, she did not lose a single game in Archon in those tournaments. Like
it's insane.
to play in this meta and to not lose a single game is just like insane.
That's impressive.
Yeah, super impressive. I think Riku also went undefeated in the Open. I unfortunately have a photo of myself with Bamboo, but not one with myself and Riku handy. Um, so I'm
Oh, I
showing
have the
that.
picture of.
Uh,
Yeah, let me see if I can send you a picture of Bamboo and Riku and I.
nice.
After the award ceremony. I just yeah, it was a wonderful weekend with them, and like you just mentioned that Riku went undefeated in Archon Open. So like Riku won the Archon Open, and then minutes later Bamboo won the Archon World Championship. Like like 2 days after they celebrated their marriage at KFC.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
what an
Vargas has
incredible
a
weekend.
really touching video. I wish I had a copy of him of her counting out the cards for Ecto Charge and winning the game, and then like Rika right behind her, just like cheering and like coming in for a hug when she was announced. It was so awesome. It was such a
Yeah,
cool moment to catch on video. Man,
yeah,
they really crushed it.
they did. Yeah. Um, and then for the first ever sealed world champion is our good friend Vargas.
Yeah, and huge shout out also to Wei Do from Taiwan for coming in second.
Hmm.
Uh, but with Vargas, I'm so happy for him. Like being with him all these years, I feel like this year has been like his year. He's like he won sealed, he won Alliance for a Vault Tour, and then he just won uh, NKFL Diamond, like dropping 4 games total in Diamond. That's insane. And then going into this Silver Championship, and in the final match, he wins the first game, loses the second game, and he recalibrates his deck to and he told me he actually made his deck worse by SAS, but he recalibrated his deck for the matchup for the third game and won the third game.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's
He just had like his whole deck and he was just evaluating everything between the games and just
I will
that.
say that is the coolest that is the coolest aspect of Alliance, Sealed Alliance that I've heard yet, is
Yeah.
recalibrating your sealed decks between games in the finals. Like you get the whole way to the finals, one win or one loss away from it all, and you're like, I'm changing the deck that brought me here
Yeah.
because you understand the matchup that you're playing.
Yeah.
Like that's awesome.
He's
That's
such
really
a
cool.
good player. He's such a good player. I'm so happy for him. I'm so proud of him. That's so cool that he got there.
Yeah,
Man, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we have any like specific anecdotes or stories about the Alliance champion Damat, an Italian player who won the Alliance World Championship. Did you guys follow that event at all, the Alliance World Champs?
Only for the first couple rounds.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think I left a little bit for some food, but
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was with you for food.
hmm
I
yeah.
was very hungry.
hmm
Came back and then there was the award ceremony. But um, last year was Donut's dad won the Alliance. This year was Damat. He was the second Italian to win a world title with Dorian winning it last year, who was also present last
hmm
weekend to defend his title.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that I can say that I know about the Alliance World Championship.
Yeah, he was a really good guy. I just think it's really cool that that all happened.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
know what his alliance was? I was
I
surprised.
don't.
I don't think it was Mom, was it? It wasn't MDR.
I
It
don't
wasn't.
think so. I'll be curious to see. I'll be curious to see when it comes out. I know there were a few Thrall builds in there. Uh,
hmm
Aviator was on Thrall as well, as was
Ah,
Varghast, right? So
yeah.
I'll be curious to see how they did. I wasn't following it closely enough to tell in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll
hmm
see. All right. Cool. Well,
No, it was an
yeah.
amazing time. I'm really glad that I got to celebrate it with you all and everyone else.
Likewise.
Same. Yeah. It really helps the more you go and the more you travel, the more you meet people and you get to know everybody as friends. And then you go to an event like this. And
Ah.
it was nice because I already knew a lot of the people. I met tons of new friends, tons of great people. But it was also very meaningful because there's, a lot of people that I hadn't seen in 6 months or a year that I got to see again and hang out with again. And it really made it. So it's a community worth investing in if you're listening and thinking like you haven't gone to a vault tour before. The people are amazing. Just try to make your way, get to know some people. Even if you're like just kind of making friends online in the community, like to get to meet them in person for the first time is super cool. You're like you introduce yourself to somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I'm so and so, and you're like, hey, I've seen your name on Discord every day for the last year. Now I finally get to meet you. It's very
hmm
cool.
It's really awesome when you like bring up, yeah, I'm B-Hawk. And like, oh, you're B-Hawk. I've played you. Like, it's so funny. And then Vargas, he's like, he mentioned it. We met Wado for the first time and his friend from Taiwan. And I said, hey, I'm by B-Hawk. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I've played you. And then he's like, yeah, I'm Vargas. He's like, oh my God, you're famous. Can I get a picture with you? It's just, it's so fun. So awesome. Yeah.
Man, I
So,
didn't have anyone ask me for a picture with me.
yeah. I mean,
Dang.
I was only there because Vargas wanted he got Vargas to take the picture. So I was
Ni-
around.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so just to clear the record, Data for Stream says Demont had Brio and Tucalp and Taunt. So,
Yeah,
sort of
that's what
like
I
a
was hearing
Vandola.
was like if it just took it, right? Because Calp prevented extra creatures from being laid down and extra actions from being played. You could only really do one. And it felt like a problem. Is like Alliance is all about checks and balances and we have that restricted list. And it's like, what do you restrict? I mean, Bryos are rare, so they're not going to put that on the restricted list. They're going to put Kelp. They're not even rocking Befuddle. Like,
Well, if they put Calp on there, then it's obviously a dig at DT. They're just worried about DT.
yes. I don't know what they'll do. I think the community can come up with an answer for it. I don't think it needs a restricted list for it, but it's still kind of cool that that build is what took it.
Right on. I love. I
Mhm.
mean, love seeing the innovation anyway.
Mhm.
So that's cool, and something that feels like it's also somewhat achievable, right? Like you hear the mom MDR stories, and you're like, okay, that's very strong, but there are, I don't know, handfuls at most of those out there, and you're like, okay, they'll show up at big events, but for your
I
average
mean,
average enjoyer, it's gonna be tough to
I'm
grab.
not gonna lie, hearing about Cat Maro's build where it can purge your opponent's entire deck by like turn one or two, that's terrifying. That's insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
that can happen.
I don't even know how that would happen.
In Alliance, you can resolve MDR and use some scrap effects to return well, to play well, to return other things and use future as past. It's just craziness, and it's got
Would you
and
purge
then
your
you can and then
opponents?
so yeah, you purge. You use once you've got your deck in hand, you use Incarnation Pod to purge your opponent's deck.
Mm.
Between that and the being able to use double shopping spree to discard
Hmm.
your hand, which lets you discard the creature that lets you bring back well to play well, to then bring back the other cards you need. It literally loops your deck and purges your opponent's entire deck.
Wow.
Yeah,
Brutality.
and then Market Flux to make them discard their hand.
And purge those too.
So they
Too.
literally have nothing. Like it's literally the most brutal thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
Yep.
It makes me feel like Scrap needs to be fixed because it's an infinite loop. Like Hetmaro broke it completely with Alliance on the infinite loop train.
I think someone else in the Q&A asked if they were gonna, well, not, it wasn't even a question if I remember correctly. It was really just like a statement like you need to change scrap to be rule of six. That's my question. Bye.
Mm-hmm. Bye.
Yeah.
That feels, I mean, that feels pretty like a pretty reasonable thing to do. Like this
Yeah.
feels like a loophole that went unchecked, and then we can say, okay, like we have successfully poked our like stick into the loophole and like destroyed things, and like let's close the loophole now. You know, like golf clap, it's been done, and then let's close the
Yeah.
loophole. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And it's like they had it like borderline with tokens, right? Where they had like it only counts on play or use. And tokens are made. They're not played.
Yeah.
So
How
they're
sad would you
put
be?
into play.
How sad would you be if all of a sudden you got 3 Scholar Reaps instead of 6 in a turn
I'd be
max?
pretty upset because I don't think that is the problem.
Yeah. Although it'd
Collateral
be
damage.
collateral on the Phoenix that I'm blanking on the name of, but yeah.
Yeah, that Phoenix deck.
Mm-hmm.
Nearbor Flamewing.
Underbore Flame
Yeah.
Egg. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that one is interesting, but it didn't do
It's,
anything really.
it shows up in small enough numbers that it hasn't been problematic, I guess, or at least that
Yeah.
there hasn't been an as successful build of it. But I don't know.
Well, I mean, I
Not
think
following as
Keyforge is
closely.
a game of matchups, right? And so you could have a Nearbor Flamewing that make 30 tokens, and then there's other alliance decks that don't care about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yep.
mean, just waiting to see the hey look all my tokens, and then also I'm gonna now play Token of Appreciation 3 times this turn. Lols.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Well then, we all don't
But
know.
it was certainly exciting. It was certainly cool.
Yeah, I feel like we could probably go for another 2 hours, but
Be good.
we're gonna
Let's
cut it.
wrap this.
We're gonna wrap it. We're gonna wrap it. Have a word from our sponsors. Yeah. So this episode of Bottom Beaker was brought to you by Permanent Records, the Crucible's only source for scratch-proof, skip-free, read-write compact discs. Crafted with unparalleled durability, these CDs are guaranteed to keep your data safe and your tunes crisp, no matter how many times you spin them. With Permanent Records, say goodbye to scratches, skips, and the heartbreak of lost data. These discs play forever, so your music, photos, and files are always at your fingertips. Keep your tracks eternal with Permanent Records, because it's not just a mixtape, it's memories. Yes, indeed. There is nothing worse than being like, this is my favorite mixtape, CD, mixed disc. I don't know. I still call it a mixtape. And then you're like, it starts to skip while you're on like the bus to like a field trip, and you're like, gosh, dang it, this is what I had planned for the whole trip, you know? This is for archons of a very particular age band that will
Mm.
appreciate it.
Scratch CDs in the 90s were the worst.
Yep. Yep. Cool. Well, yeah. Thank you so much. Oh, no, my goodness. Getting ahead of ourselves here. I want to remind you all, folks, that Bottom of the Beaker is recorded live on Wednesday evenings at 9:30 Eastern Time, right here at twitch.tv/sloppylabwork. You can find recordings of our past shows and other streams over at youtube.com. We are at Sloppy Lab Work over there. And for the very best content, 34? No. 57 times distilled and scraped from the bottom of the beaker. Search for that very phrase in your podcatcher of choice. And we'll be there, ready to wait the 345.7 days with you for the next KFC. Thanks so much to the wonderful Behawk for joining us this evening. Thank you, Behawk.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
A pleasure as always, indeed. And Quick Draw, got any words for the folks getting off of the final audio stop?
Yeah, so if you're watching live on Twitch, thank you. Just heads up, Dataforge Stream will be doing a draft of the Terran Keyforge League over on his channel right after this, so hop over, check that out. If you're listening to the podcast, thanks for listening to that little endorsement of Dataforge Stream, and I hope you guys stay sloppy out there.
Stay sloppy indeed. Cool. So we will be, not playing our game. We're going to try and get this episode out to podcatchers early tomorrow. So I'm going to see if I can figure out how to do the old raid thing once more, or at least get the buttons clickety-clacking to make that happen. And then we'll be seeing you folks over there too. Bum, ba, bum, bum, bum. Yeah. Raid in the old Dataforge filter. Our Dataforge
I'm
stream.
glad you know how to do this, or at least know how to figure out how to do this.
Yeah, couple clicks, couple buttons. It should be going anytime. There's a little countdown. Yeah, I'm gonna be tuning in while we're doing the editing here. I'm curious. I'm actually really excited for this this league.
Yeah, me too. Did you get in it, P-Hawk?
What?
The Terran Keyforge League.
I didn't hear about it.
Oh, you missed out. So
I saw that there were signups for it and I missed it.
it's
Yeah.
sold out.